Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Miles Memories Weekly, episode 263. Miles Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and working experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. Ow! Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, we got back from Adepticon. It was tons and tons and tons of fun. I did not manage to buy a Custodes box because they sold out in like 2 minutes. But I managed to get a whole bunch of other cool stuff from Adepticon that I'm very excited about. One of those things I managed to get at Adepticon, I ran into Trent from Miscast, and he gave me a couple of his models, his little Kit Bash custom models. And so on the Sunday, returning home from Adepticon, I managed to get one of those models painted, and using him as inspiration and his daily uploads of like doing little hobby, almost challenges, I decided to paint this guy up in record speed. I think this guy took me about 2 hours, and most of that was grinding off the little base that he came with so I could put him on a proper base. But I painted this guy up, dirted down rust. I was originally not going to actually paint the model because the pewter looked really nice, and so I was just gonna put the dirty down right onto the pewter. But it turns out that that doesn't work because nothing really likes to stick to metal. So I did prime it and then painted it metal, and then I put on the dirty down. But that was all in preparation for wanting to try out some object source lighting coming off of this little sword. And I think it was very effective. He looks like a spooky little guy with a really nice little like glowing sword. Very much like, who had the sword that glowed in Lord of the Rings? Was it Bilbo or was it Frodo? It was one of the does, but they had a glowing sword, and this guy has a glowing sword. And a gentlemanly bulge. This guy is awesome. I really like how he turned out. Really fun, just cranking through a paint job. And because I was at Adepticon, I didn't get a lot of painting done, and so it was nice to be able to add something to the done list, like right away after I got back to my painting studio. But speaking of new things to paint, we got some new models from Games Workshop, or a new model that will be coming out in the 11th edition starter sets. A new knob. The article says that this is a boss knob, which is just one of the knobs in the squad who's a little bit bigger than the other knobs. Although the ancient knob box that we currently have for 40k, you can't tell which one is meant to be the boss knob and which one is a regular knob. I guess the one that you glue the boss pole onto is the boss knob. This guy is ridiculous compared to the old knobs. Or the Assault on Blackreach knobs that were, I think, 2 pieces. You had the knob and then you had like one arm, and that was the entire construction of those old minis. This guy is fantastic. He has a beautiful combi weapon that is just almost pointless because Ork's shooting is so bad that beautiful gun with like the Scorcha barrel and the missile launchers and the bullet bandolier wrapped around the arm, that amazing looking weapon is basically gonna do absolutely nothing. You might not even roll the attacks. You probably will because if it is a combi, it has the chance of like devastating wounds on 6s, but Ork shooting is a little bit sad. And although it can be fun, if you can roll enough dice, then you can get some 5s and then sometimes like 4s and get a little bit of damage through, but really, the main course is the close combats. And for close combat, he only has a choppa. What do knobs have? They have the power claw, and then I think they have big choppa. And for a long time, if the power claws have fluctuated in power level throughout 40k, I think in 8th edition, they were a little bit too expensive, and so you actually would go with the big choppa because it was almost as good at like a quarter of the price, because old points per equipment in 40k used to be real wonky. Games Workshop liked to have points unified across your range so that it could all be held in one chart. But that meant that like a power fist that was gonna go on an Ork war boss was the same points cost as the power fist that was gonna go on a boy squad. And it didn't really math out. I like the new system of points. This guy's got a nice choppa and the littlest tiny squig. The cutest little guy. This looks really, really good. I'm very excited for some revamped classic orcs. The orc range is pretty huge, but some of the weak spots in the range are the most important thing. The boys, the knobs, and the Gretchen are so old. And so I'm very excited to see them get the Tyranid treatment from like Leviathan, because I assume that we're going to get a bunch of awesome new monopose sculpts in the launch box, but then quickly after we'll get new updated multi-part plastic kits for those units. And so if you're looking to get a really good amount of orcs, like now is probably the time, because you're gonna get some really, really good looking ones in a lot of really good different poses. I like this guy a lot. And he does seem to have some very spicy base stuff going on. Like a lot. He's up on a tactical rock with a dead Primaris helmet on the ground, but then there's tons of little bullet pieces. And I don't know if he has a giant like base topper that they've sprinkled sand on top of, or if there's gonna be a whole bunch of like loose cartridge bits in the box. Games Workshop doesn't ever show off things that don't come with the thing, but it's interesting that there are so many loose bullets scattered all around him. I'm very intrigued to know exactly what that's gonna be. I assume he's just on like a big flat piece that you glue down to a base, and all of these bits are going to be sculpted into this base topper. But it looks really good. I'm very excited for the new launch box, although I'm a little bit more excited for the Space Marine half than the Orc half, because the Black Templar Crusade always must grow. And speaking of growing, the Orc range is not the only thing that's growing. The Imperial Knights are also growing with the Knight Destrider. So there's the Papa Bear, Mama Bear, Baby Bear Knights, or this is the Mama Bear. It's bigger than an Armiger, but smaller than a classic knight. The Knight Destrider is a really interesting knight. Its points got revealed at 250, which for its stat line seems maybe a little expensive. Or it could just be that Armigers are incredibly cheap at like 130. That seems really, really cheap for an Armiger, but knights are weird. Their points are all over the place, and it's weird to build an army of super heavies, so it all kind of maths out. But the Knight Destrider is 10 wounds, or no, it's 18 wounds of toughness 10, 3 up save, 5 up invulnerable against range. And it has the Frag Bombard, which is a really fun gun. Only D6 plus 3 shots, but if it's within rapid fire range, it's 2d6 plus 6 shots, so it's doubled. And is that better than the Chastiser Gatling Cannon with just 12 shots? It's very similar. I think the Chastiser Gatling Cannon arguably is just better, but you do have the chance of getting more attacks with the Frag Bombard. And the Frag Bombard does have Blast. I don't know, I think I would go with the Bombard just because it'd be really fun to roll 2d6 dice and then add that to your attack pool. I guess you could also just take the, those are the options. The Chastiser Gatling Cannon or the Frag Bombard. Otherwise, you can have a melee option in the Reaper Chainsword or the Thundershock Spear. The Thundershock Spear is a little baby version of the Knight Lancer's Lance. And it does have the Lance rule, which not all lances in 40k have, which is very frustrating. But it looks like a decent little guy, a little bit quicker than the other knights, a little bit tankier than the regular old Armigers. I'm really intrigued to see how this shakes up Imperial Knights, because it is a new thing and a very different thing. 2 of these guys are going to be like 500 points, which is going to take up the slot of 1 knight. Kind of Imperial Knights are like 400-ish points, which is a little bit awkward when you're trying to make a 2,000 point list. But I am intrigued by these new guys. And I wonder if we could look 10 years in the future, would we just see a lineup of like a dozen knights all slightly smaller than each other? Like making your way all the way down to something even smaller than an Armiger? I feel like what would be kind of cool is, instead of making more knights, just give them a proper infantry style units, which would just be like knightly squires who are running around. Because knights have always had a problem of like doing the actual mission actions and the things of a game of 40k. And so historically they've allied, like Chaos Knights have historically allied in Plague Bearers and Nurglings, and regular Imperial Knight armies have allied in Sisters of Battle and Deathwatch to kind of get some kind of a regular dude on the table. So I feel like Imperial Knights probably should just have a regular dude style unit. But I do think that the heart of an Imperial Knight army is bring in big stompy robots. And so I think it should be that you can use big stompy robots as your only thing, and it should somehow work with 40k. It currently kind of doesn't, but I think some Games Workshop could rearrange it and reconfigure it so that you can actually play a game of 40k with big stompy robots, and it feels correct, is my hope. I may or may not be starting an Imperial Knight army. Well, actually, I kind of have an Imperial Knight army because I've painted a lot of them over the years. I painted one back in college, and then I've painted a bunch for the channel. I now have a Chaos Knight and a bunch of Chaos Armigers. Like if I pooled all of the knights in my house together, I could have a knight army, but they would be a little bit messy in like the different color schemes and the different styles of all of these different models. I've played against knights a fair few times. Actually, I was playing in an Apocalypse game, and I was playing essentially with knight allies because the guy next to me had a knight army, and we worked together to move up the board, his knight taking the brunt of the enemy's firepower, while my Black Templars got into position to do some amazing charges. But there is something really special and cool about knights. But typically when I'm just playing a game against Imperial Knights, it's just a game of, can I survive long enough to score enough points to win? Because there's no way I can take down the Knights. Black Templars with their power swords and chain swords, really hard to take out an Imperial Knight. I was playing at the Dragonfall GT, but I was just in the casual tournament, and I went into a Knight army, and he took out all of my vehicles, and I had a Tech Marine, and when vehicles die near Tech Marines, I think they go up to 7 swings with their power axe. And so he was empowered and he charged into the legs of an Imperial Knight that I believe had 2 wounds remaining. So he could have destroyed the Imperial Knight, and he swung his axe and completely whiffed. It was so sad. It was kind of glorious, but it would have been so cool if an angry Tech Marine had been the one to take the final wounds off of a big, stompy Imperial Knight. But alas, it didn't happen, and he probably got crushed by the Titanic Feet. Oh, Titanic Feet, the melee weapon of Imperial Knights. Oh, and the Knight Destrider has Titanic Feet. 4 attacks on 4, strength 7, AP -1, damage 2. The same profile of the Frag Bombard, except for the to hit value. I think that the feet, I feel like the feet could be a little better. I feel like the damage should be higher on the feet, but they should be harder to hit. You see this a lot on most vehicle profiles that like rhinos are strength 6 hitting on 4s. And occasionally they'll do something. I really like to use my rhinos and like just charge them into the enemy, and then or the Vindicator tank, I've been doing a lot of charging because the Vindicator's special ability is that it can shoot its main battle cannon in combat, but then it also gets to fight with its tracks. And so it's 4 attacks, it's strength 6. And every once in a while, it does manage to run something over, and like 1 model or 1 Space Marine will die, and it feels really good when an attack that has no business doing anything actually on the tabletop manages to do a little something. It's a lot of fun. And with the Black Templar Vows, we can very easily get +1 to wound on our melee attacks. And so like if my little Vindicator managed to charge an Impulsor or a Land Raider, something that has high toughness, I get +1 to wounds. So my track attacks can be like wounding on 4s, which feels really silly, and I really like it. I have been having tons and tons of fun actually painting and putting together some vehicles. It has been a vehicle heavy year, and I have a bunch on the painting desk, which is good because we've got some spicy things coming for vehicles soon. And we've also got all sorts of awesome hobby products available from EonsOfBattle.com. Over there, we have all kinds of hobby goodies, Grey Tide Studio bits to spice up your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, so many brushes, basing cork, and we got glue, ultra thin and ultra thick super glue. And we have all the terrain we make over there too. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack we've ever made or the brand new one. In April, we have created the Armored Accessories Bits Pack. This set is full of awesome components to make your vehicles as unique and characterful as your infantry, with all kinds of equipment, storage, barrels, and tools for your tanks to carry, seals and tassels that are actually vehicle-sized, big ol' missile launchers, and extra armor. So many pieces of armor plating in different sizes and patterns so your tanks can have the up armor treatment that looks best on it. Whether it's a futuristic war machine, an ancient Hulk, or a chaotic monstrosity, these accessories will have your tanks covered. This Bits Pack is by tank players for tank players and is available both digitally and physically printed for you at EonsOfBattle.com. Now that I am back from Adepticon, I have been painting and building like a fiend. I have so many games in the works, and I'm still trying to make some good progress on my 40k. My Black Templars army that I've been running over and over and over I'm slowly getting to the 2,000 points that I really like to play. And even though I have like 6,000 or 7,000 points of just Primaris Space Marines, and then I have like another almost 10,000 in old squatty Space Marines, I feel like I own one of everything. And an army list, you're typically not taking like 20 different units. You're taking like, 12 to 16 with some doubles and some triples. And so I've been working on getting everything just right. And I also just go really hard on my Black Templars, and so each individual guy takes me like hours. And so it does take a little bit of time to get my Black Templars exactly how I like them, but I do want them to be perfect. And I gotta work on some more Black Templars, so thanks for watching.